Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another episode review from Season 6 of The Loud House. Today's episode is titled Sleepstakes. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. In this episode, the kids try to help Lana get over her fear of homesickness before she attends her friend's sleepover. However, the methods she had planned to use to alleviate her anxieties are thrown out the window the moment she shows up, and her siblings do what they can to comfort their sister so she doesn't end up leaving. In the end, Lana decides to stay after she finds out there won't be any sleeping whatsoever at her friend's house, putting her earlier anxieties to rest. See what I did there? Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. Originally, I thought this was going to be a very underwhelming episode when I first read the synopsis, but after watching it, I found it to be really good, and the story was quite relatable if you had the same fears as Lana when you were a kid. Speaking of whom, Lana was hands down the best character of the episode. Not so much for the obvious fact she was the star, but because we got more development on her character. We find out she gets homesick whenever she goes to a sleepover because she's in an environment with which she's not familiar, on top of how she's scared of the idea of sleeping on someone else's furniture with odors that are anything but the ones she's used to. That last part does sound a little ridiculous, but everyone has an irrational fear like Lynn throwing up and Lisa and the eye doctor, so who are we to judge a child if they're feeling anxious because of homesickness? Now, I would say this episode could be inconsistent with other episodes like Fool's Paradise, where she has no problem falling asleep in some random motel, but here's the difference worth noting. She was with her family when that happened, so she still had a feeling of security. After all, Lana does worry she may have a nightmare at the sleepover, something she's been known to have in episodes such as GarageBand, and if her family isn't there to comfort her, especially in a very unfamiliar environment, well, I think you know where I'm heading with this. Basically, if you do some research on young children and their anxieties about spending the night at someone else's house, you come to sympathize with Lana because she tries to overcome a very common thing that can happen during childhood. While some kids can handle being away from home like it's no big deal, others just aren't as strong and require some help to build the confidence they need to survive on their own when they finally leave the safety and security of their home. That's where Lana's siblings come in, and they were another big positive. They helped their sister get adjusted to sleeping away from their house by first starting out in the backyard, then going a little further away by sleeping in Mr. Grouse's living room, and finally spending a night at Sunset Canyon, an even further distance from their house. As that was happening, they gave Lana a few tips and comfort objects to help make her feel less nervous, such as watching TV, being given a special spray that smells just like the inside of their house, and hugging her frog slime covered pillow. Even when all the methods their sister intended to use fell flat within the first minute of their sister showing up at the sleepover, they still went the extra mile to bring Lana her pets and a stolen lasagna from their neighbor's fridge just to keep her from stressing out. Even Lincoln attempted to make things better by trying to impersonate their mom, which Lana totally believed. Well, hey, Lincoln did say he has his mom's bone structure, so there's that. In short, the kids did whatever it was going to take to make sure Lana wouldn't feel homesick within the first 30 minutes of her sleepover. The best part is they didn't try to force Lana to do something if she didn't want to. They didn't take the strict approach of, you need to get over your fears and just tough it out like a big girl. They knew how freaked out and upset Lana would be if she was left out to dry without her family to comfort her. If she wasn't ready, then so be it, and there would have been nothing wrong with that. So yes, I really appreciated the more nurturing and parental approach they took to reassure their sister that everything was going to be okay whether she stayed or wanted to come home early. They were just as sympathetic and understanding as Lana's friends, so let's segue into them. There's honestly not too much I can say about Kayla or the other two girls other than they're not judgmental. I say this because Lana seemed to imply that because she's never made it through a sleepover, her friends would think she was some kind of coward and end up making fun of her. Granted, we don't know what Lana would tell her friends when she bailed out on previous sleepovers, but it's clear her friends still respect her no matter what, so props to them for being a bit more mature when their friend initially tells them what she's afraid of. I'm looking at you, Margot and Maddie. Anyway, they reveal how none of them ever intended to go to bed within the first 30 minutes of any prior sleepover, and Lana never realized the best part of a sleepover is not sleeping because she never stuck around long enough to find out. They said they stay up all night doing all kinds of fun stuff, and they only tell Kayla's parents they're putting on their pajamas pajamas and going to bed for reasons I don't think I need to explain. Now, if we were to be realistic about this, I highly doubt any one of them will be staying up all night without falling asleep, but I can see a silver lining to all this. If we were to assume everyone stayed up into the late hours of the night and started to feel tired after having all that fun, Lana could undoubtedly fall asleep and wake up in someone else's house and not feel scared or have a nightmare at any point in between. She could finally overcome her homesickness by doing this over and over at Kayla's house until being that far away from her own house wouldn't be a big deal anymore. To that end, she wouldn't need any coping mechanisms to get her through the night. In other words, she'd be having too much fun to feel homesick. Of course, everything I just said is pure speculation since we don't know if Lana and her friends truly did stay up all night, but the ending does indicate how Lana's earlier fears were pretty much gone on the surface, meaning she's most likely not going to have a nightmare, and maybe she won't need any comfort objects to help her fall asleep after all. Well, alright, perhaps having a little home-smelling spray as a backup wouldn't hurt, but maybe use it in small doses next time. Overall, this was yet another great Lana episode as we got to explore the more vulnerable side of her character that was hinted at back in Season 2, and how the story demonstrated how kids can have anxieties about going to a sleepover. Lana's siblings really helped their sister to prepare herself for the big night, and then went the extra mile to bring her whatever she needed to stay at her friend's house, and never once forced her into doing anything that would make her feel uncomfortable. Kayla and the other girls were decent minor characters as well, and they indirectly proved to Lana that she had nothing to be afraid of after all. The ending was a huge weight off Lana's shoulders, and even though we never get any immediate fallout to see if she and her friends truly lived up to the plan of not going to sleep, I still stand by my theory that Lana would eventually get tuckered out from having all that fun and fall asleep without feeling homesick, thus conquering her fear one sleepover at a time. With that said, I give Sleepstakes a 9.1 out of 10. Well, folks, that concludes my review of Sleepstakes. I will end this review with something I mentioned in my previous Bummer Camp review. We see Lenny driving Vanzilla to Kayla's house, which kinda doesn't make sense since how did Mr. and Mrs. Loud go on their date? I'm just going to assume they called an Uber. But anyway, because this episode and Bummer Camp were both produced after Driver's Dread, and how they first aired on Nickelodeon before Driver's Dread, we got another spoiler for an episode that hadn't aired yet when it would have made more sense to air Driver's Dread before Bummer Camp and Sleepstakes, but at least we know Lenny can finally drive properly. If only the same could be said when it comes to looking out for gopher holes, but that's another topic for another time. But anyway, as far as the rest of the episode goes, what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.